Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel. It's on everything you could ever imagine related to difficult, narcissistic, and other high conflict personalities. So here's the question I want to put to you. Have any of you ever worked someplace where what basically was happening was all the good people left because the narcissistic bosses, the narcissistic managers, and the narcissistic colleagues were kept and enabled, and you were like, I'm done. Or other people near you were like, I'm done. And slowly but surely, all the healthy people left, leaving sort of this critical mass of really toxic people. If you've ever been in a workplace like that, drop that in the comments. I know I have, and I was like, yikes. In some ways, it's a bit of a revenge fantasy, right? Because now they're all left with each other. It's like Jurassic Park at the end where the dinosaurs all kind of eat each other. It's sort of that. But, and I don't even think the dinosaurs are narcissists. But, if any of you have had that experience, because that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the talent drain that can happen in any kind of organization or institution of any size. The talent drain that comes when we enable narcissists at work. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about that. Because when you do this, when the narcissists in the workplace get enabled, you lose your real talent. Now, anybody out there who has ever worked with a narcissist or narcissists knows the havoc that they can wreak in the workplace. Triangulation, harassment, abuse. They don't carry their load. They accuse everyone else of having it easier than them. They will backstab colleagues. They will steal ideas. They will pass rumors. They will deny the things they say. They will gaslight everyone. It can be a mess. Again, any of you have had these workplace experiences, and you can do so safely and confidentially, drop it, but don't do it if it's going to cause you problems at work. People will report that after working with a narcissist, it can result in workplace stress like no other kind of workplace stress. I mean, all workplaces are a little stressful. And this is particularly stressful if you don't know what you're dealing with in terms of a narcissist. If you also have legacy issues related to narcissism, such as a narcissistic parent, these dynamics can be even more activating for you. Or if you're in a narcissistic marriage and working in a narcissistic workplace, you may even find yourself vacillating between feeling trauma bonded to your abusive colleague or boss, or experiencing traumatic stress in the face of narcissistic abuse from a boss or even a colleague. Because it is the workplace, you may minimize it. You may gaslight yourself and say, it's just my job. I need to stop taking it so personally. But given how much of our lives we spend working, or in some cases in the workplace, it can have the same level of physical and mental impact as an intimate relationship or a family relationship. In most ways, narcissists get away with way more nonsense at work. Their competitiveness, their grandiosity, their obsessiveness, their entitlement, their obsession with winning, their willingness to brag about their accomplishments, all of this can contribute to them actually climbing the ladder more quickly, because many people may not see these patterns as toxic. They may see them as hardworking or focused or ambitious. And narcissistic individuals are so skilled at looking good to those they need to look good for, and to destroy those who get in their way, that they often rather quickly ascend the ladder into leadership, and narcissists may actually crave leadership positions because they like the supply and the power that comes from being the boss, whereas other people might say, forget it, I don't want the headache. Narcissistic individuals are about power and profit, and that is a motivation that many employers can get behind. Narcissistic individuals are not team players until someone is watching, and their Jekyll Hyde slickness means they can trick many people, especially somewhat dull-witted people at the highest levels of corporate leadership who don't quite get these patterns. So they climb to the top and are making other people's lives miserable. But not all workplace narcissistic abuse happens from the top down. Sometimes it can be one of the rank and file workers, the frontline worker who is passive aggressive, manipulative, and may be a real handful for managers, who treats clients badly, and may be protected by workplace rules that make termination very difficult. These frontline workers may also make everyone's lives more difficult by fostering sort of a demoralized workplace. And because people often just don't want to be bothered with the toxic shenanigans of a difficult coworker, they just don't want to deal with them. Everyone else may be working harder, so they don't need to take the difficult person on or ask them to do something. Many employers enable the narcissists in their midst. HR departments don't know what to do about them. HR is woefully unprepared in most organizations. The fact is, narcissists are geniuses at leaving the psychological bruises that nobody can see. Workplace reports about them, when you do try to make change, often devolve into he said, she said, they said. And the absence of documentation, not much can be done. And I'm going to tell you, even with documentation, I cannot tell you how many times human resource departments, management, and administration will soft pedal it into, it all just sounds like a misunderstanding. We can try to find common ground, or some other consultant nonsense talk. And they'll often try to dodge lawsuits and with settlements and moving people around within the company, so they may not any longer need to work closely with each other. But what none of these entities are ever willing to do with the narcissist is to pull the weed out by its roots. The fact of the matter is, narcissism is not against the law. And because of that, employers' hands are often tied. Many times, employers will also minimize and gaslight it as a stylistic difference between two employees. And if the narcissistic employee is profitable, they may not want to either kill the golden goose or aggravate or piss off an antagonistic employee who they think is going to sue. So the healthy people become the sacrificial lambs. One thing companies and institutions don't think about when they enable narcissists and when they permit the toxic workplace to just keep going is the talent drain that they're going to face. It's my hope that as more people get educated about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, that they recognize that they cannot win at this game. Some people really give it their best shot. They manage expectations, they radically accept, they don't defend, they don't explain, they don't engage, they don't personalize, they follow all the steps. They really try. But the narcissist, despite you figuring out the workarounds, will still generate a toxic culture around themselves. And it's just bad energy to be in that. The possibilities for growth in these kinds of workplaces are often curtailed. You may not feel like you can even be authentic in your workplace. I understand. It is a real luxury to be able to leave a job. And most of us cannot leave a job unless we have another gig set up. It's just the nature. We got to pay the bills every month, right? But once you realize that there is a narcissist in your midst, start the job hunt. It's often the best play because, frankly, the therapy bills, even if the new job doesn't pay as much, still might outweigh the cost difference. Because even if not everyone can leave a toxic workplace, over time, there will be a talent bleed. Some of the good ones will leave. The empathic ones, the compassionate ones, the ones who are gritty enough and willing to take on a little bit of an extra load because it's the right thing to do, because they have a shared vision with their employees and employer. But it gets tiresome when you do these things and it's never reciprocated. Employers can lose productive people, healthy people, and the people with integrity and who are honest. Then And when that happens, when that talent drain happens, what you're left with is a critical mass of the narcissist and all of their minions, the people willing to do the narcissist's bidding. And it becomes a big, dysfunctional family characterized by triangulation and all kinds of ethical lapses. And it feels more like the reality show Survivor than it feels like a workplace. And when you get to that point, it can be very difficult to keep your company or keep any company or for a company to keep going. See, it's the healthy people that kept that workplace going and alive, even as they were being jabbed by the narcissist. Many a company, institution, or business, large or small, has been brought down by the hubris of narcissism. And anyone could see it coming, except for the enablers and the deniers on the inside. The talent drains that come when a workplace is toxic cannot be underestimated. Some companies get to try, or at least try, or some achieve, holding on to their good talent by overpaying them. It's kind of like blood money for putting up with the toxic narcissists in their midst. Some hold on to jobs that are toxic because of handsome pensions or other golden handcuffs that will await them one day, or that they're stuck into, I should say. But in a more nimble economy, and as the days of working 40 years for a pension and a gold watch fade into the history books, people leave jobs more often. Millennials, for example, are switching jobs quite a bit. It's the nature of the new workplace. I have watched people, though, try to make a toxic workplace work, and one day it hits them. Maybe it's just an absurd staff meeting that just feels like the theater of the absurd. Maybe it's watching the most toxic person get advanced and get accolades, and watching the real workhorses remain unseen. Maybe it's watching a junior colleague enduring the same toxic hazing ritual you endured 25 years prior, and it becomes that wake-up call that nothing ever changes in this place. Many times when people leave, they just leave. They never sit down with HR or management and say, you know why I left? I left because of the toxic culture that was allowed to be fomented here. They just get out and try not to look back. So reliable statistics about all of this can be quite hard to get. But companies do lose talent. And one day the people in charge, who may be toxic themselves, may look up and wonder, what just happened? And here's what's interesting. They'll never see it clearly, and in fact, may label the people who left that company as ungrateful or weak. People who leave toxic companies, frankly, often go on to great things. They create their own firms, which they really set up intentionally to be non-toxic. They may be more discerning and may choose a new job on the basis of the quality of the people who they get to work with. And there's also a resilience that develops from working in a toxic workplace that you can bring forward. As the world increasingly keeps enabling toxic and narcissistic behavior, always remember there is a toll. You can keep pretending, like all the gaslighters do, oh, come on, it's not that big a deal, he's not that bad. But as more people understand this phenomena, they will leave. And trying to run a company that's populated by only narcissistic employees and their enablers, well, that's a fool's venture. The enablers are too busy validating the narcissist to really do their jobs, and the narcissists are too busy manipulating everyone and burning bridges to do their jobs in a sustainable way. As a business model, it may work for a little while, but in the long term, all those burned bridges means that there is no way to keep moving forward. Listen, I hope someday we see a world, a sort of alternate universe, in which the healthy people will finally prevail, that we will have reasonable workplace policies that can actually call people out for toxic behavior, that we don't gaslight people who are saying this doesn't feel okay by saying, oh, just don't make such a big deal about it. That's just how he is. I do hope that day comes. I'm not holding on to it, the idea that that might happen in my lifetime. And so we may not see massive corporate, institutional, or large business change, but for those of you who are running smaller to medium-sized businesses, take a good look around and really sort of do, I don't know, just like you might do quarterly reviews, do a quarterly sort of assessment of the level of toxicity in your workplace. Ask yourself if you're keeping someone around for reasons of nostalgia, misplaced loyalty, and not really accounting for how they're treating other people. Because one day you're going to look up, and I promise you the good people will leave. It's my goal through the work I do in education is to give the good people the wake-up call, to leave the toxic spaces that the people who are in the toxic spaces don't want to fix. There's an incentive to doing it better. It's on all of us to see if we can hold up that sort of, that kind of standard for employers to engage in. But until then, plan on watching the talent just bleed right out. Thanks again for tuning in, and please subscribe if you're new to this channel. Hit that notification bell, and we'll always remind you almost every day when these new videos come out. Thanks.